Every once in a while, the NHL gets hit with a player who doesn't just break the rules. He exposes how outdated they've become, and right now that player is an 18-year-old defenseman who's doing things no teenager at his position has ever done. Coaches can't explain it, analysts can't model it, and teams definitely weren't prepared for it. Matthew Schaefer isn't supposed to play like this. He's not supposed to control games, outskate veterans, or look like someone who's already solved the league's pace. But from the moment he stepped onto NHL ice, he started bending expectations in ways nobody had a blueprint for. And the craziest part is that this problem didn't begin in the NHL. It started long before, in places most people never paid attention to. Because what Schaefer is doing at 18 isn't just impressive, it's something the league doesn't have an answer for yet. And by the time you see how deep this goes, you'll understand why the NHL suddenly has a Schaefer problem on its hands, one that's only getting harder to ignore. Defense is not a teenager's position, never has been. For decades, the NHL has treated young defensemen as long-term projects, players who need years of mistakes, slow growth, and careful sheltering before they can handle real responsibility. At 18, most are still figuring out their skating gaps, handling pressure, and learning how to survive the pace. Production usually comes much later, after the reads and timing finally click. Schaefer didn't follow that timeline at all. He jumped straight into the league and immediately played like someone who had bypassed the usual growing pains entirely. His shifts didn't look cautious or hesitant. He dictated play, controlled tempo, and read situations like a defenseman in his mid-20s. The historical comparisons make it even clearer. Even the best young defensemen, or Dahlin, Ekblad, needed time to find balance between talent and composure. Schaefer arrived with both from the first puck drop. That's what made his emergence so jarring. He didn't just break into the NHL early, he broke into it fully formed. And for a league used to easing young defensemen along slowly, watching an 18-year-old skip the adjustment period altogether created a question no one had asked before. What do you do when a teenager is already playing like he's outgrown the development curve entirely? Schaefer wasn't the typical junior phenom who dominated instantly, but even in his quieter moments, he played with a calmness well beyond his age. His rookie OHL numbers didn't scream superstar, yet his skating, poise, and decision-making were impossible to ignore. He processed the game like someone older, and those flashes were enough for scouts to keep watching. Then he lost a big chunk of his draft year to mono, which usually derails development. Instead, he came back stronger. In a tiny sample of games, he produced at a pace that didn't match his age or his recovery timeline. His reads were sharper, his confidence higher, and suddenly he wasn't just a solid prospect. He was climbing to the top of draft lists. Even his short appearance at the World Juniors showed how advanced he was. Before the injury that cut his tournament short, he was already making pro-level decisions. Calm exits, smart defensive positioning, and a perfect setup to Gavin McKenna that revealed how far ahead his mind was. By draft day, the Islanders didn't see him as a long-term project. They saw him as a centerpiece. They cleared space, opened a spot for him immediately, and treated him like someone who belonged in the lineup now, not years from now. And the wild part was that he still hadn't even turned 18. Schaefer's first NHL game didn't feel like a teenager adjusting to a new league. It felt like someone stepping into a role he'd been preparing for his whole life. He made the game look calm, not chaotic, and finished the night as the youngest defenseman in league history to record a point. The Islanders immediately trusted him with real minutes, not sheltered shifts. His second game made it clear this wasn't beginner's luck. He scored his first NHL goal, jumped into plays confidently, and handled the pace like a veteran. There was no panic, no hesitation, just controlled, decisive hockey. Then came the streak. 6 straight games with points, rookie of the month, heavy minutes every night. It didn't look like a young defenseman surviving his early weeks. It looked like someone skipping the learning curve entirely. Pretty quickly, it became obvious this wasn't a temporary flash. Schaefer didn't need time to adjust to the NHL. He arrived ready, and that's when the Schaefer problem truly began. The league was watching an 18-year-old play a position that's supposed to take years to master, and he was already doing it better than players far older than him. What really started unsettling teams wasn't just how Schaefer looked on the ice. It was how quickly his numbers made it obvious he wasn't a normal rookie. Defensemen his age usually spend their first season trying to survive the pace. Schaefer controls it. His skating already ranks with the league's best, not because of one big burst, but because he hits high speed constantly. Every retrieval turns into a clean exit. Every rush becomes a transition chance. Opponents barely have time to pressure him before he's already moved the play up ice. His offense adds another layer to the problem. Most young defensemen hesitate or look for safer options. Schaefer attacks. His early goal totals came from reading openings like a veteran, releasing shots in stride, and picking corners instead of just throwing pucks on net. Goalies can't set their feet before he's already let it go. That decisiveness is rare for experienced players, let alone someone barely 18. The power play only amplified everything. The top unit looked sharper the moment he stepped in. He moves the puck quickly, keeps plays alive, and never looks rushed. Penalty killers already adjust to him, which almost never happens this early in a player's career. But the clearest sign that he's breaking expectations is his ice time. Young defensemen don't get heavy minutes. Coaches protect them until they prove they can handle more. Schaefer didn't go through that process. He walked straight into 22-minute nights as though he'd been in the league for years. Tight games, late shifts, tough matchups. He handles all of it without the usual rookie inconsistencies. And the results back it up. He's driving play, defending with poise, and producing offense without the panic or chaos that usually comes with being this young. Opponents haven't found a reliable way to slow him down because the usual strategies don't work. You can't pressure someone who escapes every forecheck, and you can't wait for mistakes from someone who rarely makes them. That's the real issue. The NHL doesn't have a game plan for an 18-year-old who plays with this much speed, composure, and control. Schaefer doesn't just succeed, he exposes how unprepared the league is for someone this polished, this early. What separates Schaefer from most young defensemen isn't just his skating or his numbers, it's how early he sees the game. Most rookies react to pressure. Schaefer seems to anticipate it before it forms. Every puck retrieval looks controlled, almost rehearsed, like he already mapped out the next two passing options before anyone reaches him. When forecheckers close in, he doesn't panic or force plays. He turns away from pressure with a confidence that makes it look like he's been doing this for a decade. His breakouts show this better than anything. Instead of chipping pucks off the glass or throwing blind passes, he waits an extra beat, shifts his weight, and opens up a lane that wasn't there a second earlier. It gives his team cleaner exits, more speed through the neutral zone, and more control in transition. Those little decisions add up fast, and they're the moments where you notice his maturity isn't normal for his age. It's the same story when he joins the Rush. He never jumps at the wrong time, never gets caught cheating, and never looks unsure about where he's supposed to be. Schaefer processes plays early, reacts calmly, and plays like someone who's already lived through the mistakes young defensemen usually need years to iron out. That 3-second advantage, the ability to recognize what's coming before it arrives, is rare in the NHL and almost unheard of in someone this young. And once you mix that level of anticipation with the skating he already has, it becomes clear why so many people immediately started reaching for one name. Comparisons to Cale Makar are usually thrown around too casually, but with Schaefer, the overlap is hard to ignore. It shows up in the way he explodes out of the defensive zone, the way he jumps into the rush without hesitation, and the way he plays fast without losing control. The style isn't identical, Makar's edge work is on another level, but the philosophy is strikingly similar. They both play with this forward driving instinct that forces the game onto their terms instead of adapting to it. Schaefer's activation timing is what makes the comparison feels so real. He picks perfect moments to join the play, turning routine exits into odd man rushes and simple breakouts into extended offensive pressure. He isn't reckless, he simply sees opportunities quicker than most defensemen. And when you add his confidence with the puck and the way he pushes pace, it's no surprise scouts immediately connected the dots. What makes this even more unsettling for other teams is that Makar didn't reach this level until he was older. Schaefer is showing shades of that style before he's even grown into his full frame or developed the deception that comes with experience. If he's already doing this at 18, it forces the question of what his game will look like once he hits his mid-20s. But as flattering as the comparison is, it still doesn't get to the core of the problem, because what Schaefer represents isn't just the next Makar, it's something the NHL hasn't had to confront in a long time. This is where everything connects. The NHL isn't dealing with a talented rookie. It's dealing with a fundamental disruption to how the league understands defensive development. Teams build their pipelines around the assumption that defensemen need years to mature. They expect mistakes, they expect slow progress, and they expect that even elite young prospects will need significant time before they can handle top pair responsibilities. Schaefer threw that entire playbook into the shredder. He arrived with the poise of a veteran, the transition ability of a modern puck mover, and the hockey sense of someone who's already been forced through years of NHL pressure. He didn't need easing in. He didn't need sheltering. He didn't need the traditional development path that teams rely on to protect young players. The real Schaefer problem is that he exposes how outdated those assumptions are. He forces teams to admit that they might be misreading prospects who share similar traits. He challenges scouting models that focus too heavily on production instead of decision making, and he pushes coaches to rethink how quickly young defensemen can be trusted when they have the right blend of composure and skating. This is bigger than one breakout season. It's a reminder that some players don't just advance faster, they break the sport's expectations entirely. And if Schaefer is already this polished, the teams that ignored those warning signs are going to feel it for years. Projecting any young defenseman is risky, but projecting Schaefer feels different. He already plays heavy minutes, already drives offense, and already looks like someone who understands the NHL at a deeper level than most rookies. The usual worries about inconsistency or defensive lapses don't apply to him in the same way. He's calm, precise, and constantly improving. What scares analysts isn't where he is now, it's where he could be in a few years. His game still has room to grow, his deception can sharpen, his offensive confidence can increase, his physical strength will only get better as he fills out, and if he's producing, skating, and thinking the game at this level before even turning 20, it raises the possibility that the league might be looking at a defenseman capable of redefining what elite means in the modern era. Teams usually avoid bold predictions, but with Schaefer, caution feels like underestimating him. If he's already playing like a top-pair defenseman at 18, what does he look like at 24? At 26? At his full prime? That's the part no one wants to say out loud, because the answer could shift the balance of the league for a long time. Matthew Schaefer didn't just break into the NHL. He broke assumptions the league has relied on for decades. He's fast, composed, intelligent, and adaptable in ways young defensemen simply aren't supposed to be. His presence forces teams to rethink how they scout, how they develop, and how they judge readiness. And for the first time in years, the league has to prepare for a defenseman who might not follow any known aging curve or development path. He's already reshaping expectations, already pushing boundaries, and already creating ripple effects that front offices are scrambling to understand. And now the biggest question isn't about what he's done, it's about what he's going to become. So let me ask you this. Do you think Schaefer is on track to become a true franchise-changing defenseman, or have we only seen the surface of what he can be?